Those who have had the chance to get to know me over this past year know two things about me. 1, I teach, and 2, I run, and I do them both with heart. Although these two things seem completely unrelated, in my mind, a lot of my journey in becoming a teacher directly parallels my running adventures. Now when I say I run, it's not just the measly 2 miles here or there. I go big. 26.2 miles, a full marathon. Marathons require endurance. They require training. They require believing in myself. They require dreaming big. All of these elements are also required in teaching. So this is where my journey begins. The year started with anxiousness and excitement, eager to meet my students, my master teacher of my school, wondering what is going to happen. What would I teach? How would I teach? There was so much that my students needed to know. How could I cover it all? What if I wasn't good enough? And if doubting my abilities and my content was not enough, what about the way that others view me? Would my students like me? Would my master teacher find me competent? Am I really supposed to be here? Am I supposed to be a teacher? Could I run this race? Could I go that 26.2 miles to the finish line and become a teacher? In my teaching, I jumped in immediately by trying different strategies, exploring my classroom management, and finding the teaching style that worked best for me. I began to run that long race of exploring my teaching persona. Like I chose to aim for 4 hours to finish my marathon, I chose to put everything on the line in the classroom with my students as well. I began by using my students' interests, learning about them and what they wanted to learn. I used differentiation, I used untraditional texts, I used cooperative learning. This all developed into my experiment of using children's books for literature circles. Like I didn't know if I would be able to last my pace for 4 hours, I didn't know if my students would buy the children's book idea. After all, my students were not children, they were 8th graders. But despite this, I had to hold strong and give it a try. I told them to trust me, to run with me, and just to give this project a shot. Since I asked my students to start trusting me, in return, I had to start trusting myself and my ideas. I had to start settling into my pace if I was going to get this race done. Immediately, my students exceeded my expectations. They produced creations that I could never have imagined even in my wildest of dreams. Students who had done very few assignments for me before were now producing masterpieces. Even in this advisory class that was not for an academic grade, my students were completing a project for no extrinsic reward. Just as my students were starting to find their strengths, I immediately exceeded my expectations as well as I started my race. My 9-minute 10-second mile pace slowly started speeding up. 9:05, 9 minutes, 8:50, 8:40, 8:36. I was settling in. I was finding my pace. We were running together. What was happening? At this point, I felt the joy that comes with teaching, the joy that comes with running, the adrenaline, the fun, the adventure, the reward of seeing my students truly consumed in their task, wanting to learn, wanting to produce a project. They were working together, they were smiling, they were laughing, they were partaking in a lesson that I had designed completely and 100% on my own. We were all running the race together. Is there anything more that a teacher could want? My students may never know this, and they probably would never believe me if I tried to tell them. But through this project and many other events over the course of this year, they taught me a lot. They taught me about teaching, about building relationships, about how to be a teacher, and about how to believe in myself. Just as I realized my running and endurance capacity through the course of the marathon, I realized my teaching persona throughout this year. Care, respect, focus, determination, smile, laugh, dream. Do all of this for the good of my students. They taught me that I can do anything when I put my mind to it. So I would teach them the same. I would show them that the world was their stage, full of possibilities, because they think they can. This is it, this is what I told them, this is what I told myself. By the end of the year, I believed in myself. My students believed in me, my master teacher believed in me, my school believed in me. I could see the finish line of that 26.2 mile race. I just had to keep telling myself to believe through those last 5 miles. Believe, and soon enough, I would have my credential, I would have my own classroom, I would have my own students. When I left my school and my student teaching placement, I immediately felt like a part of me was missing. Not returning to my school, my master teacher, my classroom, my students, I no longer felt whole. This is what made me realize I need teaching. I love it. I crave it. I run to it. I have to do it. It is my calling, my mission, to serve these students, to help them find themselves and see their potential, to help them realize their future. I know that whatever school I end up at, with whatever students I am teaching, I will be fulfilling this dream of mine. Even though my student teaching year, my marathon, is done, I will continue running this long race again and again. And although it may be hard at times, through this profession, I will always end up winning in the end, and winning forever. After all, as Henry Brooks Adams says, a teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops.